Hey, it's Jay. I wanted to extend a special thanks to those of you who have listened and left reviews on iTunes for this podcast. Please leave a review if you haven't done so already. We sincerely appreciate it. We're producing this show independently, and unfortunately, that is not free. We have to pay for digital hosting space, software, equipment, websites, and travel out of our own pockets. But we'd love to keep this show going as long as possible. Please show your support for this podcast and give it life by making a donation to www.bigbuckregistry.com/donate or pledge your support by visiting www.bigbuckregistry.com/pledge. You can also find our app in our Apple App Store called Big Buck Deer Hunter 2015 and in the Google Play Store for Google and Android devices. Thanks for your support and enjoy the show. Big Buck Registry is a virtual museum of hunting stories. We preserve a piece of Americana by interviewing and recording hunters about their hunts and experiences from across the country. And who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way that'll help us take our hunt to the next level.
This is Gordon Whittington, Editor-in-Chief at North American Whitetail Magazine, and you're about to listen to another great episode of the Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast.
Hello, my name is Merrill Sport. I'm president of the Hunt Channel, and you're about to listen to my favorite podcast, Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast.
Hey, this is Jim Willems, president of the Pope and Young Club, and you're listening to my favorite deer hunting podcast ever, the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast. I'm psyched that you're joining us, and I'm also psyched that my good friend Dusty Phillips is back on the mic to join us for another episode number 107. Dusty, welcome.
Yeah, it feels kind of weird, though.
What feels weird?
I mean, after last week.
Yeah, that was kind of strange.
I mean, what the? Red, man, great job on the show last week.
Red did fill in, and he did a great job. And I think he stepped up his game because he knew that he was following in your shadows.
That's a tough thing to do.
It is tough.
You know, there ain't too many people that's got the mojo like I've got.
I'll give you that, my friend. I will give you that. And yeah, he was great. And you know, he's such a funny guy. He just like yourself. I mean, you have a good sense of humor, just like Danny does.
And, you got to. Life's too short to not have fun with everything you do.
Right. I agree.
If you're not having fun doing things that you love, then you're not living.
Right. So I hope Mike understands what he's got over there. He's got a good co-host. And for Red to step up and fill in when we needed a little help, man, just can't thank him enough for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Much appreciated, Red.
Absolutely. So I don't know if you remember, Dusty, but when we went to the ATA, there was a gentleman that we met, Carl Drake, and Carl was or is a pro staffer for Realtree, and he's one of the good friends with Adam Vinatieri, who is the kicker for the Indianapolis Colts, formerly the New England Patriots.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I didn't know that he was a hunter. I didn't know Adam was a hunter. But Carl said, yeah, Adam hunts a lot. So we got talking to Adam a little bit, and I asked him if they would join us on the show down the road. And here we are, a week after speaking with Gordon Whittington. We're going to speak with Adam Vinatieri and Carl Drake about hunting. And, you know, Adam's a big football player. And he actually is now playing with our other friend, Trent Cole, because Trent just got traded from Philly to Indianapolis. So two of our good friends now play for the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, very cool.
I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
We actually don't talk a lot about football. We talk about some football. The one thing we don't talk about is DEFLATEGATE. Hot topic, of course. But I'm so sick of talking about DEFLATEGATE, I don't even want to talk about it. Because I don't care.
Right. Yeah. You know, just the cool part is that not only are, our good friends professional football players, but they also have the same passion that we do in the outdoors.
And that's it. That's the point. is that of all the stuff we're talking about, the reason we're talking is about hunting, deer hunting. It's the one thing that connects a lot of us. You know, we all have different professions. We all have different lifestyles. We all have, you know, some people are professional other things. In fact, Carl is a professional firefighter, full-time, and does Realtree Prostaffing on the side. Adam obviously is a professional football player, but he's a hunter, and he needs to hunt. It's like one of those things to fill his soul. So I thought it'd be interesting to have another aspect, though. You know, these guys on the NFL, they don't, especially on real good teams, don't get to play outside of football, don't get to go hunting much outside of football because the season, if you're on a good team, runs deep into February, and most of those seasons are pretty much over by then, and it consumes. Right. So you got a day off. So what I thought was interesting is that Adam actually reaches out to Carl at one point and said, "Hey, I'd really like to do some hunting. You know, I'm playing football, but I only get a day off here or there. Is there anybody in the area that," he was asking some of his friends, "that you know that hunts the area that I could connect with that might be able to help me out to do some hunting on certain days that I'm not playing football?" And Carl was that answer. So they've been buddy ever since. So I thought it was kind of an interesting story. Let's bring it all together, find out how they connected, and then find out how an NFL player hunts when he's so dedicated to playing football.
Right. You know, it's one of the things where the love and passion for football carries over to the hunting.
Right.
And you know, that's very unique because not only is a lot of time and a lot of effort focused on their football careers, but you know, it's like they're pulling a double career. You know, Trent Cole with his TV show and doing all of that plus football. I mean, that's a lot for one person to take on.
Yeah, it is a lot. And I actually asked Adam if he's met Trent yet. And he goes, "You know what? He's actually already invited me to hunt with him at his farms."
Nice.
It's like, that's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Very nice. So what do you say we get on the horn here with Carl and Adam Vinatieri?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it, Jay.
Okay. Adam Vinatieri and Carl Drake, welcome to the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast. What's happening, fellas?
Hey, how are you doing today, Jay?
It's a beautiful day in New Hampshire right now, actually. So we're just enjoying some summer weather, but deer season is not far away.
For sure.
Yeah. Where are you guys right now?
Balmy, sunny, not really, but central Indiana and Indianapolis right now. We've had tons of rain and everything's very green and luscious right now, so it should be a good year for us out here as well.
Excellent. So, Adam, tell me a little bit about where you grew up and how you got started in deer hunting and the outdoors.
Well, born and raised in South Dakota, which is probably known more for the bird hunting, the pheasant hunting, and all that. But living in the Black Hills, we had some really good whitetail and mule deer hunting out there. So I always laugh and I always say that I was born with a shotgun in my hand because my grandfather took all of his boys, and when I was old enough to bear the weather, my dad started taking me as well. So it was really a family affair. Being out in eastern South Dakota, where my grandparents lived, it was, cousins and uncles, and everybody was out in the fields together. So the deer hunting was more in the Black Hills on the western side of the state with my dad and brothers, but did it all. I honestly started really, really young and loved being outside in the outdoors, and just seemed like it was my oasis to get away from real life. You go out there and you're in Mother Nature and enjoying watching the animals go around and just fun. I loved it from an early age, and my two boys now are as into it as I am now.
Oh, is that right? So it's a tradition that's being passed down.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. I think all of my siblings and their kids are all into it as much as I am. They get to do a little bit more than I get to now with football season kind of right in the same time deer season is. I don't get to do nearly as much as I would like to, but my bucket list is long, and in a couple years when I'm done playing ball, I'll be able to make up some time and catch up to them all.
That's a good point. Very good point. Carl, how about yourself? Where are you from, and how did you get into hunting?
Oh, I'm originally born and raised in Mansfield, Ohio, and I didn't really get started until my early teens started hunting. I mean, Now, we grew up squirrel hunting with my dad. We were weekend farmers in Kentucky. And then at the age of 17, I lost my dad in a vehicle accident. So from there on, I pretty well was self-taught how to deer hunt, turkey hunt, and, go on from there, by watching videos and listening to tapes from guys like Ray I, Tom Stuckey, Greg Miller. Just kind of started watching videos and picking up from them, and just kind of pretty well taught myself to where I am today, where I'm still learning every day.
What's your philosophy on hunting? How do you view it? Is it something that everybody should have as part of their daily lives, or is it just for certain individuals?
Are you asking Carl or Adam?
Both, either one of you.
Well, for me, I try to introduce young kids all the time. My son has friends that like to come over, and my son's shooting a bow. So I kind of, I'm teaching friends, kids as friends and my son's friends how to get out there and do some of this. And I just like to expose people to it. And then they can make their own decisions how they feel about it. Some people like to be out there in the woods, but not actually pull a trigger or release an arrow or any of that. And that's fine too. It's to each his own, but I feel like every person should have the opportunity to at least be out there and to appreciate the woods and see how it is. This day and age, a lot of there's becoming more private ground, and unless you have a good place to hunt, it's hard to find public ground to hunt. So for me, I like to expose as many young people and friends as I can possibly, and let them see on their own if it's for them. But I know if they enjoy it as much as I do, we're going to have a lot of new young up and coming hunters in the future.
Gotcha. Now, Adam and Carl, where you are at today, I mean, Adam, your job is around Indiana, right? That's where your profession is. Do you end up hunting mostly in that area, or do you get out and explore a little bit?
Well, my situation is in the fall when most people are doing the majority of their hunting. I'm pretty busy. I got Tuesdays is our day off, so I try to climb up in a tree and hunt every Tuesday that I have that opportunity. I get to do a lot more hunting in our off season, obviously. So starting, February, March, there's not a lot of hunting going on except for, unless you go to the Southern Hemisphere, you go to Africa or New Zealand or something like that, until turkey season starts up about April, May-ish. So you can do a little bit of spring bear hunting and stuff like that. So I try to do a nice destination hunt every single year.
Okay.
Sometimes it's cooler than other years. Sometimes it's a better destination. But I do try to do as much of that. I even work my way down to Texas at times, and I'm working on my Grand Slam for turkeys and all that. So, I find enough time to get out, and it's kind of my decompressor. It kind of relaxes me after a long, hard season, and I have an opportunity to really just wind down, I guess.
Gotcha. How often do you get back to South Dakota?
I make it back about once a year, or thereabouts. Every once in a while, I'll make it back a couple of times. But, the thing is if we're playing into the playoffs, it's January or February by the time our season's over. And, February, South Dakota, not necessarily where you want to spend your off time. So
right.
Not a lot of hunting going on there, first and foremost. And then going back there with a foot of snow and 10 below zero, not really where I want to be. So
right.
I make it back in the summertime or a spring turkey hunt or something like that every once in a while. But, when I'm done playing football here in a couple of years, I really look forward to going back to South Dakota and doing an opening pheasant season and doing some deer hunting with my dad back in the hills for sure.
Gotcha. So as an NFL player, especially playing for a good team that's going deep into the playoffs, then you're typically going to be missing a lot of the deer season because your schedule's so tied up for the most part. Maybe you get a day off or two during the fall, but that's not that much. You can't really venture off too far, right? That's
exactly. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Yeah, exactly. You hope that your bye week falls kind of right in the middle of the rut or whatever, so you'll have a couple extra days. But even with that, it's hard to. I know most people, Carl, for instance, probably sets his schedule and he takes a good week off or something so he can do some good hunting. Unfortunately for us, I shouldn't say unfortunately, I'm happy that I have the job that I have, but when it comes to hunting season, it becomes kind of difficult.
Right. How did you guys meet?
Go ahead.
Well, I had one of my fellow police officer friends who where I work at here in Carmel, just kind of said, "Hey, I got a guy who's looking for a place to hunt, and he see if you could help him out." And he told me it was Adam, and I had a couple places local. I said, "Well, yeah, sure, we can hook him up on him." And kind of met up, showed him a couple of spots I had, and then just kind of we had the same interest, and the friendship grew from there. And actually, I've got to spend the time in the woods together, even over in Africa, and just, things have grown from there. And I'm just very blessed to have Adam as a personal friend of mine and getting the opportunity to hunt with him and share the outdoors with him.
That's very cool. So, Adam, how did that go? Were you looking for a spot just to kill some time when you had a day off or two, and then Carl came along and showed you a good spot to hunt?
I'm going to kill deer. For me, I was looking. So where I live in northern Indianapolis, we have some urban zones where it's archery only.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of deer in these urban areas that they're trying to knock the numbers down a little bit. They get struck by cars and doing a lot of damage in that way. So if you can find a little honey hole anywhere around here, sometimes the deer grow nice and big because they're not getting pressured, not getting hunted. So for me, like I said, Tuesday off, I can jump in a car and drive an hour or two to a bigger piece of ground. But for me, I figured on a Friday afternoon, we get done with practice a little earlier. If it was a local place where it's only 10 or 15 minutes away, I could go out and just until the sun sets, I could get a couple hours in. So, like I said, he like Carl said, we have a mutual friend that knew that Carl hunted around here, and he had a couple places that were only within minutes from my house. So we kind of looked around and tried them out and saw how we went from there.
Gotcha. So the whole concept of urban deer hunting with a bow and arrow is a fascinating subject to me. We've done some shows on this whole subject. But it does give that deer an opportunity to grow large. And some of the biggest deer I've ever seen actually ran through a busy intersection in downtown Nashua, New Hampshire. It's just an interesting concept. So you must be able to experience some of that where you are. And is that Carl, is that something that people engage in a lot, or is it just a few bow hunters here and there that can take advantage of that?
Honestly, it's just a few bow hunters just because of the rapid growth that's going on around here. Like, I've lost several of my little honey holes that I've had here just in the urban areas just because buildings going up, home additions going up, and so it's dwindling. If you get that chance to get a good spot, you can have some great 150, 160, 170 class deer. It's just, there's very few hunters that get that opportunity to find that spot. I know a few friends that have got those honey holes, but they're pretty tight with them and they don't want to give them up. So if we find one, we're lucky. And if not, we're making the trek south to our other places.
Gotcha. The three of us met recently at the ATA, and we were just chit-chatting at one of the booths, and Adam, it didn't dawn on me who you were initially. And then I said, wait a minute, that's Adam Vinatieri. And of course it would make sense seeing that Lucas Oil Stadium is right next to the convention center where we were. And it kind of made sense, but I didn't know that you were a hunter, except that my good friend, Mark Clifford, told me that you were. And I guess you and Mark have done some hunting in Kentucky, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we did some turkey hunting down there. I think he's got a real nice hunting operation and outfitting operation that they shoot some big whitetails down there as well. He's showing me a lot of pictures from trail cams and stuff like that. I haven't had an opportunity to hunt any of his big whitetails that he's got down there because, again, it's right in the middle of our season. But they have a lot of success, and they've got a lot of ground. So that's the key. When you have some good crop ground down there and you have enough land to manage your deer and your herd and be selective on letting deer grow to maturity to their 4 or 5 years old, all of a sudden you have some good things to choose from, I guess, at that point. Right. So, I've been fortunate to get down there in the spring where I have a little more time, but he promised me a big buck when I'm done, so we'll see if he holds true on that.
All right. He's a man of his word, so I have no doubt that'll come to fruition. And the genetics in Kentucky are really interesting too. Like we have some predictions here on the Big Buck podcast that the next world record will come from Kentucky. What do you guys think about that?
I personally have some ground in eastern Kentucky, and I've got some great deer there. Definitely the potential is there just because of the genetics, not only with whitetail, but I think the next world record elk's going to come from eastern Kentucky also. They're getting some monster elks. But, yeah, I think Kentucky definitely has the potential to grow the next world record.
And I think I'll co-sign on that and think that they don't have quite the hunting pressure that some of the other states have. So with less pressure allows, bucks to mature and to get bigger. I mean, obviously it's all about genetics first and foremost. If the genetics aren't there, they're never going to become a 200 class deer if they don't have the genetics to do that, which if we're talking world class deer, that's what we're talking about. But, they've got plenty of crop ground in certain areas. They've got plenty of agriculture around there where they can get big. I know Carl's place on the eastern side of the state doesn't have as much crop ground, but they still get big there too. So I think they could potentially. That might be the sleeper state, but if we keep talking about it, maybe it won't be a sleeper anymore.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's an interesting concept. Adam, when you were playing for New England, did you end up hunting any of the New England states?
I didn't get to do a lot of that over there. I really got into more of it. The first couple of years in the league, maybe it was just from being nervous or self-conscious or, hey, I can't even take a day off. I've got to just, be in it 100%. I didn't do a whole lot of hunting back east. There were some nice areas, but from where I lived, it would have took me a couple hours probably to get to some real good hunting ground there. At least that's what I thought anyway. So I didn't devote a lot of time when I was there. I did a little bit of off-season stuff, did an Africa trip and headed back to South Dakota. But as far as the whitetails in the New England states, I didn't do a lot of hunting back then.
Gotcha. So let's talk about a couple of memorable hunts that each of you guys have been on. And what we'd like to do is just kind of break down the 48 hours before the actual hunt or the kill and kind of dissect what it is you would use to be successful in the field. Like, what tools do you use? How do you prepare yourself? What factors do you prepare for? I guess much like you might prepare for a football game, there are certain things that you do to prepare for a deer hunt. Adam, let's talk about one of your most memorable first, and Carl will turn over to you to tell us about one of yours. Tell us about a deer hunt that you've been on that sticks out more than others. I
think my favorite deer hunt was an urban hunt here in Indiana, probably less than 5 miles from my house. I took my son out in an afternoon, and I believe he was 7, maybe 8 at the time. And in Indiana, you can do apprentice licenses. So we got apprentice license. He was with me. He had a nice Barnett crossbow that I had gotten and that we had practiced in our yard a bunch. And for me, he could make the shot. It was just a matter of, buck fever type of thing. You know what I mean? And
sure.
And we went out one time before, and a decent buck came through, and he got so excited he damn near wet his pants and didn't get a shot. But that was one of those things when I knew he was already hooked on that one. So I could see the excitement. I could see his hands shaking and his body shaking. So this next one that I'm talking about, we set up over a cut cornfield. I did put a decoy out because I wanted to get the deer not to pay attention to the movement in the blind if there was going to be any. I wanted him to kind of focus on something else. And it wasn't a big deer. I literally, on the decoy, I pulled one of the horns off, so he looked much less intimidating, because I wasn't expecting necessarily a big 150, 160 class deer. Honestly, I wanted whatever to come out and have a shot. And I tell you what, he shot a little 3x2, which most people, and myself included, I would let that deer walk 100% of the time. I'd rather shoot a doe for meat than to shoot a smaller buck. But a trophy to a 7-year-old boy is a doe, is a spike, is a whatever. So this deer came in and to about 40 yards, and my son double lunged it. It ran 50 yards and fell over dead. And I tell you what, I think I was doing cartwheels before I got out of that blind. And he was excited. I think I was almost more excited. He got up to it. He grinned from ear to ear. And finally, when he calmed down a little bit, he goes, "Dad, I just wish it had bigger horns. And I laughed at him and I said, you know how many 7-year-olds killed bucks? Hardly, basically about zero. So I laughed at him, but I knew I was in trouble at that point because all of a sudden he became a trophy hunter after his first deer he ever shot. But I tell you what, out of all the deer that I've hunted, out of all the animals I've hunted, probably the most excited, the most fun hunt I've ever been a part of.
That's fantastic. That is a great story. But I'm getting excited just listening to it because involving your kids, I mean, it's just the best. Just absolutely the best. So, Carl, tell us about your most memorable deer hunt. Take us on a deer hunt somewhere.
It would have to be in Kentucky. The year prior, I had been seeing a real nice 10-pointer. And he was the ghost buck, I called him. I only got to get a glance at him in person one time during bow season, and he disappeared during gun season on me. So I didn't know if he got shot because not too far from my property is some government ground, which is some public hunting here. So I thought, well, maybe he got shot. So because I went through gun season and a later part of bow season that year, didn't see him. So the next year, I started my process of doing my food plots and everything, getting excited for the fall. Come around August, September, I always start throwing out trail cameras. I like to see what bucks I have, in velvet and everything. And lo and behold, this buck ends up showing up on one of my trail cameras, which definitely fueled my excitement for the farm that year. The year before, I kind of put him right around 150 class. Just looking at him in velvet, I knew he was mid-160s. So, again, I started doing my homework, trying to pattern this deer. And one of the things with that at the farm, what makes it tough is the majority of my farm is big hardwoods. So sometimes it's hard to pattern deer because they'll go anywhere in the big hardwoods. And but I had got him several times on trail camera. Most of the times were in the evenings. But I thought, okay, you know what? If I can draw these does in and hold them on the property, eventually during a rut or something, he's going to come checking these. The week before opening gun season in Kentucky, I was down there bow hunting and had some does in on my food plot. And I was watching a doe that was right in front of me, heard something behind me, I turned around and there he stood right behind me, had me locked in the tree stand and everything. And just the sight of this deer at 20 yards behind me just makes you tremble in your tree. He saw me, he took off, and I thought, oh man, I just blew this deer out of here. The rest of that week went on. The buck didn't show up. I had several other bucks that had moved in, 130 class deer, 140 class deer, but I was holding out for this deer. Opening day of gun season come on a Saturday. That Saturday morning, had some does filtering through the big woods, and then I hear something running, and I look to the top of the hill. I can see some chasing, and here's this big buck. I'm like, oh, yes, this is going to happen. He chased these does. just would not stop, do anything. I had switched from my Matthews to a Remington 30-06, for that morning hunt. And like I said, this buck would not stop, ran a doe over the hill, and he was gone. So I thought, okay, well, maybe he'll come back. The evening hunt, no buck. Sunday morning, no buck. Sunday evening, no buck. And, with all the gunshots you hear off in the distance, you just wonder in your mind, well, is he gone? Did he go? So it was about midweek. I believe it was Tuesday or Wednesday morning. It was a cold, frosty morning. I hunted the same location that I had seen him. Had a few does filter in and had a small buck come in chasing these does. Give me a little bit of excitement, and I'm thinking this buck's right around 140 class. I'm thinking, okay, do I pull the trigger on this buck or do I try to wait it out a little bit more? I watch this buck run up to the top of the hill. I see him stop and then he turns around and runs right back to me. I'm like, what is wrong with him? And then the monarch shows up, comes up over top of the hill, and he had made it so far through season, and he happened to chase a doe down to me about 60 yards. Stopped broadside to me, and I was able to make the shot, and he ran 30 yards in front of me and dropped. My heart was just racing. He ended up taking out mid-160s, so one of the biggest ones I've killed so far, and that was one of the hardest bucks I had to work for, and that's probably one of my most memorable hunts.
That's great. When the emotions that go into a hunt like that are just tremendous. So
highs, lows, and then you're thinking, do I settle for something else? But this case, patience paid off.
Yeah, it's like he's gone. No, he's here. Then he's disappeared for a few days. Oh, somebody else probably got him. Oh, wait a minute, there he is. The highs and lows of that hunt must have been just tremendous. And for whatever reason, what I've noticed is that the big bucks that we talk about the most on the show, the most frequently named buck is the ghost buck. And I don't think that's by mistake. These deer are so good at hiding. They just know how to disappear for survival, right? That's part of it.
Absolutely. They don't get big being stupid, I think. I think it's just these bucks get wiser, smarter. It's during that rut when they lose that edge, and that's why we're able to harvest them during that time of year.
Right. Carl, you're a pro staffer for Realtree, correct?
That's correct.
How did you get involved with Realtree?
I'm a competition turkey caller, and I've been a competition turkey caller for hunter specialties for almost 15 years now, and I happen to be just doing some video and some TV for them. Had won a couple state contests in Illinois, Ohio, and Indiana, and then became good friends with Michael Waddell, and at that time he was married to Ashley, and Ashley was the promotions manager. And she had seen what I was doing with Hunter Specialty. She said, hey, why don't you join on with us and just take us with you everywhere you go and just promote us. And that friendship and partnership began, and I've been with them for probably 10, 12 years now. And, it's just been a great partnership with Realtree. We've done some video for them, do a lot of promotions for them, the Bass Pro Fall Classics, a lot of grand openings with Cabela's and Bass Pros and Gander Mountain. So absolutely love it. Absolutely.
That's awesome. And do you do anything else besides that for profession, or is that what you're doing now?
No, my profession, I'm a full-time firefighter and a paramedic here where I live at. I've been 24 years on the department. And I just, like I said, on my days off is when I get to do my stuff with Realtree. And I actually do a little filming for Archer's Choice too. So that just gives me the days off that I can go have my playtime, I call it.
That's awesome. Very cool. Adam, you are a kicker in the NFL, and you have been for quite a few years. And you've mentioned a couple times now that when you decide to hang them up a couple of years from now, you're going to spend a lot more time in the woods deer hunting. Is 2 years kind of your plan?
I guess I've never set a time or a standard or whatever. I guess for me, I always take them one day at a time. It sounds cliche-ish, one game or one day or one season at a time. I guess at my age, I'm 42 now, still hanging with all these young guys, but it takes a lot more work, I guess, to stay fit and to stay in it and to keep your body healthy and all that. So I've always said, as long as I can still be an asset and not a liability and continue to love it as much as I always have, which that love has never disappeared or it hasn't even sank at all. I mean, I love it today as much as the first day I did it. Then I'll keep going, So I don't put a time on it. I mean, there's goals. I mean, you always want to win one more Super Bowl. I mean, I don't know of anybody that's played that doesn't want to win one, or if they've won one that doesn't want to win one and then win another one. So for me, that's always in the back of my mind or in the front of my mind, and we're trying to achieve that. But I also think, I know a time will come where my body can't do it anymore, or the aches and pains and stuff just get too much. But like I said, I got a couple of trainers and full-time massage therapists and a guy that I fly in to work on my body just to make sure that I can be as strong and healthy as possible. And as long as I can perform at a high level, there's nothing I'd rather be doing. Well, that's not true. I love hunting just as much, but professionally, I can't think about doing anything else, and nothing that I could imagine would be more exciting. So, maybe 1 year, maybe 3 years, maybe 5. I don't want to put a limit on it.
Right. And I'm 44 now, and you're 42? 42. Yep. So I feel the aches and pains more now than I ever have. And so you got to be feeling it too. I'm not a professional athlete. I was a decent athlete when I was younger, but as time goes by now, I'm just watching my kids play ball, and it's rewarding. But still, when I get out and I actually do some physical exercise, it takes longer to heal. So when you're a professional athlete, even with all the trainers that you have and the massage therapists, it's still got to be a longer repair period, right? When you do get hit for some reason. That's
the whole thing. For me, it's not about, I don't feel like I've lost a bunch of strength or flexibility or any of that type of stuff. For me, it's just recovery time. And that's my biggest challenge. Like you said, I'll kick one day. I can't kick every day in a row anymore, so I don't. I mean, I'm on a certain pitch count during training camp, and I kick every other day, and so I I try not to overuse stuff. And, our staff is great. My special teams coach understands that a 42-year-old guy is different than a 22-year-old guy. So they've been very good to me to help me, stay as healthy as possible and achieve, goals and all that stuff. So, as long as that's still going, why not?
Absolutely. And we're just not as elastic as we once were in our 20s, right? That's just not,
to say the least. Yeah.
Us 40-year-olds.
My son will fall down and I'd break a bone if I did that, and they just pop right up. Well, it doesn't quite work that way. So now we just have to be a little smarter and use caution in things that we do.
Right. You've been on 4 championship teams now. Is that correct?
Yeah. I've been a part of 4 championship teams and 2 on the losing end too. So been a part of 6 Super Bowls, which is an unbelievable blessing in itself. But to have 4 rings and to be a part of 4 different teams that have won a Super Bowl is pretty impressive.
So, and that's just unheard of, really. I mean, and over the last, couple of decades, it always seems to be either Indianapolis, Baltimore, New England, or Denver. Those seem to be the 4 teams that stick out more than any. And you've been on 2 of those teams, and it seems like that's kind of like the way of the NFL. Is that, you think that's going to continue?
Well, there's no surprise when certain teams are successful year in and year out. I think it starts with great ownership, and from there, you have to have an owner that's committed to wanting to win and willing to do pretty much whatever it takes. And Robert Kraft in New England and Jim Irsay here in the Colts, and I can't speak for some other teams, but I would say the teams that are year in and year out, the good teams, they have great ownerships that make sure they get good GMs and good head coaches, and they fill their staff with quality coaches and people that can help to make sure that you win games. Now, I've been very, very blessed that I'll go through the list of quarterbacks that I've been a part of. Drew Bledsoe, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, now Andrew Luck. I mean, when you got guys like those guys, you're going to win a lot of games. You're going to be in a lot of playoff games. So I look at it that way and say I'm just blessed to be around greatness everywhere that I've gone. It helps win games and play deep into the playoffs.
Is the quarterback the most important position on the field?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I mean, you look at some of those guys and you go, man, these guys make $20 million a year. Why that? Because they're worth it. The good ones are worth it. I mean, they really are. I mean, for some of those guys, I think the team, with very, very few exceptions, the team lives and dies with your quarterback. I mean, he doesn't single-handedly have to win the game, but he can single-handedly lose it if he's not on. So he's got to be able to manage certain situations. I mean, obviously, if you've got a great defense and you've got some good support staff, which we do, you can allow yourself a few more mistakes, but that quarterback position is so important to be able to manage the game. It sounds dumb when I say manage the game, but he truly is. I mean, it's all about field position. It's all about scoring points. It's all about knowing that, hey, it's okay to punt versus an interception, which causes, a touchdown the other way. I mean, these guys the good ones are good for a reason because they're smart and they know how to make the throws and make the plays that they need to, and they're compensated pretty nicely because of it.
Right. Gotcha. The list that you just gave me for quarterbacks, that's a tremendous list. I mean, there are no
several Hall of Famers on that.
Absolutely. Just insane how the quality of the play that they bring to the field. Of the people that you hang out with that in the NFL, how many are your hunting buddies too?
Every team has a couple of guys. We just picked up Trent Cole, who is a big time hunter as well. He has his own TV show and all that. I think every team usually has a couple like diehards. I mean, like us that will do whatever it takes to get out in the field. And then I think there's a few other guys that get out when they can, if it's convenient or something. But, some of the guys on the team, have never been exposed to that. That's the other part for me that's fun is some of these guys are like, hey, Vinny, when are you going to take me out hunting? And I'm like, let's go,
Right.
You're a 4X. I can't let you borrow any of my clothes or anything, but I'll definitely take you out with me. So it's entertaining. If nothing else, you get them out there, you get them shooting a bow or shooting a gun or whatever, and just expose them to it. Like I said, with the young kids, I like exposing people to the outdoors and the hunting and let them choose for themselves. I've got guys on our team that are like, hey, I don't have any want or dream or thought of killing an animal, but I would love to go out there and see what it's all about. And I said, well, that's the first step, and so at some point, my wife's the same way. She's happy that we go out. She loves the fact that her kids go out and we get to spend time together. She'll go with me, but she has no desire to take the life of an animal. That's just not her. And I said, well, that's okay. But she doesn't balk when she's cooking up, some venison steaks or some turkey breast or whatever it may be, so she's good like that. And the way I look at it is expose everybody to it and let them make their own decisions. Right.
Trent Cole is actually, he's a former guest on our show. And he has the Blitz TV, and we hung out with Trent for quite a while down at the Great American Outdoor Show a couple of years, and he's a good guy. And he seems like somebody that you could actually get to hunt with. He's from Ohio. He's not far from Indy, in fact.
Yeah, he's got good land in southern Indiana and in Ohio. He's got farms all over the place. He's actually invited me hunting. I laugh. I'm like, I'm the one that's been here for 10 years. You've been on a different team, and you're inviting me to places in Indiana. So we laugh about it. I think we're going to have a nice, friendly competition on who kills the bigger buck and who kills the bigger turkey and all that stuff. We've already started a little bit, so it'll be fun.
Yeah, you guys are naturally competitive as your professional careers have indicated. But yeah, there's also this competition that I've noticed amongst Trent and all his friends that he hangs out with about, it could be just who can cast the farthest during a bass fishing competition. It's like constant competition for him. So I would say that you should probably hit him up on that, because I think he's got some good land and some big deer that he hangs around. So that would be good. Let's talk a little bit about your gear setup for both Carl and Adam. Tell me about what types of things do you bring into the woods with you? What kind of camo are you using? Do you scent up? How much do you care about the wind? What types of things are you using on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I'll start off. I mean, of course, I'm going to use Realtree camo. For me, that is a huge part of my repertoire. And also the Hunter Specialty Scentaway products. I'm going to tell you what, I am a firm believer of those, of washing my clothes, myself. I think Scent of the Life Nation is huge, a part of hunting, no matter what game you are. I mean, I used it in Canada here with Archer's Choice CB. It was a huge part of our hunting there. Just the Scentaway products. And each person varies on what, as far as what weapon they want to use. Like me, I'm a bow hunter. I love to bow hunt. I have a Hoyt, and I also have a Barnett crossbow, which I absolutely love to use.
Okay, excellent. Adam, how about yourself?
No, I'm a firm believer that you do as much as you can to give yourself an advantage in the woods. And I'm also a bow hunter. In Indiana, if you're a bow hunter, you have a lot more time in the woods. So I'm not just married to my bow. I'll grab a muzzleloader or a shotgun or whatever it needs to be, whatever the season is. But I really, really thoroughly enjoy bow hunting because you have to outwit the animals. And when you're dealing with a white-tailed deer, for instance, his sense of smell, his sense of hearing, his senses are so to be able to outwit him and to get him within 30 or 40 yards to make a shot is difficult to do, especially if he's an older, bigger buck that he knows the game. He's been there before. Any whiff or any movement or anything, and he's gone, and you're never going to see him again. So, yeah, I wear Realtree as well. I shoot a Hoyt. I've shot Matthews in the past and love them as well. My current bow is a Hoyt. I scent lock maybe to the extreme, to the point where I'm damn near dripping, and people just sit there and laugh. They're like, man, you're wasting that. And I'm like, you know what? And I know there's times if you're hunting downwind, they can still, you're never, the best scent spray and the best clothes, it helps a lot. It helps a ton. Sometimes it happens that if a gust of wind gets you chalk that one up for a win for the deer. But I'm a firm believer, give yourself every single situation and every possibility that you can to be successful. So, yeah, do I chew the scent-free gum or do that stuff? Probably not, but I did definitely make sure I wash my clothes and put them in a scent bag, and I don't wear them until I get out there, and I spray down, and I do theoretically all the right stuff to give me an advantage, and sometimes I win and sometimes I lose.
Yeah, and you can't always beat it. There's a variable that's what makes it interesting, right? There's a variable associated with this whole thing. Adam, you were actually on you're ranked 98th in the top 100 players of 2015. Did you know that?
I did. I heard that. One of our PR people told me. I think it was the first time a specialist has ever been in the top 100, which is a humongous honor and a privilege. And I know there was probably some people out there. I saw them on the Twitter Nation that thought a kicker before a bunch of other players. They didn't think that was very cool, but it was definitely an honor to be on that list, and a cool situation. I guess you stack a bunch of years together, people start talking a little bit about you. But there's so many great athletes in this league that definitely deserve to be on that list. So to be on that list anywhere is pretty impressive. Just to have somebody even mention your name in regards to it.
It turns out you're the only kicker that was ever on the list, and so it's quite an achievement. It's fantastic.
Well,
guys, this has been awesome, and I can't thank you enough for joining me on the Big Buck Podcast. Adam, I certainly hope that you can get out and do some more hunting. And I did have one final question to ask you, and this kind of goes back to a rumor that I heard years ago about how you actually got into kicking in the first place. And I don't know if this is real or not, but now I've got you on the show. I might as well ask it right from the horse's mouth here. As far as kicking, there's a rumor that you actually found somebody that taught you how to kick. Like you slept on his doorstep for day in, day out until he agreed to teach you how to kick a football. Is that accurate?
Well, that's embellished a little bit beyond that.
All right.
I met the gentleman that you're talking about after my college career, so I knew how to kick a little bit before then. He helped me fine-tune it a little bit and get me a little bit more consistent to where I needed to be. It's hard to break into the league, into the NFL. There's only 32 positions as a kicker, and there's thousands of young kickers out there that are wanting those 32 positions. So I was a fairly good college kicker, had a strong leg. I just needed to get a little bit more consistent. So, yeah, I moved to Virginia, started working with this gentleman and, a kicking coach, consultant, whatever. And from there, I got picked up by the Amsterdam Admirals, played 1 year over in the NFL Europe, and then got signed by the Patriots. So, yeah, it's an interesting story. I did the Cliff Note version because there's a lot more to it. I spent a whole year living in Virginia and working as a waiter and kicking with him every day to kind of hone my skills a little bit. And, it kind of worked out perfect. It's a cool story.
It is. It's been embellished many times. And as rumors go, I figured, I might as well figure out what the truth was. Gotcha. So there
necessarily say I got to him. I've never kicked a ball before, and he taught me everything. I wouldn't go quite that far. I was still a decent college kicker before I ever met him.
Gotcha. Yeah, I kind of figured that was the case, but these rumors are really funny. So
yeah.
Now, one other thing I need to ask before I let you go: how was it when you tackled Herschel Walker?
Blast from the past. Interesting. It was a game that a lot of field goals back and forth, no touchdowns. I kicked a field goal. I kicked off to him, and I think he caught it at the 1 or 2 yard line and broke to my right and broke free, and he's running down the sideline. And how I got 10 seconds of speed, I'm not sure. Maybe the good Lord just said, hey, for this one time, I'm going to make you a little faster than you are. But I just remember chasing after him, and all of a sudden I'm gaining a little bit of ground. And
so guys, give me your number one hunting tip of all time.
Well, for me, I think when that big buck walks in and that's the one, several deep breaths. And, the thing that for me is when I see him from a long way away, it lets me kind of get my nerves under control. When he surprises me and he shows up right behind me at 20 yards, your heart's pounding. I usually study the headgear and know if he's going to be one I'm going to shoot. And then I don't stare at his headgear again, because all that does is get you more fired up. I just concentrate. It's kind of like what I do for football. I just hone in and concentrate on the little things that I can control, as far as knowing my distances. If you're a bow hunter, measuring my distances, so I know this tree's 40 yards or this one's 25. So when that deer walks in between the two trees, and I know this one's 28 yards and this one's 35, I'm using my 30-yard pin. Just little things like that. But for me, once I know he's a shooter, I'm focusing on where I want to shoot him, not how big he is and where I'm going to put him on my wall.
Gotcha. That's a really good tip, because that's called the buck fever, right? And that sometimes catches up with you when you're not ready for it. And
it's got everything. Yep.
It's got to be related to zoning in on a football and where to place your foot and the mechanics behind the kick.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Okay. I try not to think about all the external things around me. I concentrate just on what I can do in my little area of, when the ball's leaving the snapper and when it's getting to the holder's hand. I've only got one small part of it, and I got to make sure I do my part right, and I don't worry about everybody else's stuff.
Right, and that makes sense. And Carl, what's your number one hunting tip of all time?
My would be utilize trail cameras to their fullest extent. Technology has come so far. I can remember the first trail camera I had was a little 110 camera that you take, and you had to go to Walmart, develop the film, and see what you had on there. Where now trail cameras, you can get it instantaneously through a phone or 3G. I start early and utilize trail cameras. I run anywhere from 5 to 10 cameras on my property, just because I want to see every buck and every avenue that they got coming in. And I start running them actually right around June and July. I start putting them out just to see what I got, to help me identify what deer I got. And it also puts that one buck on my hit list that I'm going to go after throughout the year.
Very nice. I've heard that before too, and both of those are excellent tips. Now, as far as like a book or something like that you would recommend, are there any books that you would recommend for hunting life or just sports in general? Adam, I'll start with you.
Well, I tell you what, I have several subscriptions to anywhere from Bow Hunter to Outdoor Life to whatever. It seems like I've got 3 or 4 different ones. And seasonally, they give you tips and hints on, if it's the fall, you've got everything's about deer hunting. In the spring, it's about, in the winter, it's predator hunting. In spring, it's turkey hunting, all that stuff. But I get a couple of different magazines. I don't necessarily read a book. There's a lot of good tips in there from professional hunters that, you maybe know some of it, but you're not thinking about it all the time. And you learn little, like Carl just said, learn how to use your trail cameras, or learn how to hunt the wind, or learn how to put your food plots in.
I love doing what I do, and I know, I love spending time in the woods with Adam and everything, and that's why this friendship's worked out really good, because we both kind of have the same goal. We both want to kill big deer. We're both conservationists. We want places for our kids to hunt and their kids and so on, and big deer to be there. So that's why we do this. It's I don't think nobody's going to get rich off of being a hunter. It's just being out there enjoying the outdoors and sharing an experience with different people, whether it be a podcast, whether it be a TV show, or whether it will just be with our kids. This is why we do it.
Gotcha. And Adam, how can we support you and help you in what you do?
Just tell them how great a people that Carl and I are when somebody asks about us. No, I don't know. No, there's nothing there. We like I said, we just enjoy doing what we're doing and spending. Life's too short not to spend them with the people that you love and care about. That's why I take my family out and hunt and hang out with Carl and my buddies, because it's just enjoyable and it's a fun thing to do. So nope, there's nothing that I need at some point I may be out there putting my ugly mug in front of the camera for some hunting stuff. So at that point, we can do.
Buy your DVDs when they're ready, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's always interesting to hear how those guys in the NFL go about it. And, as interesting as it was to hear about Adam, it's also interesting to hear about the professional firefighter that needs to find time to hunt too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing that if you love something, Jay, you'll make time for it.
You will find time.
Absolutely.
Right. And, Adam, coming out of South Dakota, had a hunting background to begin with before he was even into really football. So it's something that carries in your blood. It carries in your tradition of your family. And you really do miss it if you don't get to do it. So I get why he sought out Carl.
Oh, yeah. It's like it's naturally, it's like a racehorse. I'm going to compare it to a racehorse. If your mom or dad was a racehorse, it's in your blood. Same way with hunting.
Right.
That horse is going to run hard and always have a love for that horse racing. But it's just like hunting. If your parents or grandparents grew up doing it and then you come along and you're around it and your curiosity is always there at a very young age. And then you finally get an opportunity to go do it. But once you have been to the woods and seen what nature is all about and how you can help and how you can, preserve the land and make healthier herds and, build habitat, you combine all of them together. And it was in your blood from the beginning. It just, you learned more about it as you went.
Yep, exactly.
That's the same with football, I'm sure.
Yep. Well,
football's in their blood.
It's in their blood. Hunting's in my blood. It's in your blood. It's in everybody that's listening to this. I guarantee you they have the same passion that all of us, that connects, the NFL football player to the firefighter to the farmer to the finance guy to anything that's going on. There's always some kind of common connection, and it doesn't matter what walk of life you're from. Hunting always seems to be the connection for all of us. So I can't thank Carl and Adam for joining us enough on the Big Buck podcast and kind of letting us know how it is and where they hunt and in and around the Indianapolis area. So thanks again, guys. So Dusty, I am going to be at the Northeast Big Buck Club banquet later on this afternoon.
Yeah, that's going to be a cool experience.
Yep. The annual banquet.
There with Michael Montgomery, correct?
Michael Montgomery, yeah. He hooked us up with some tickets. I think I'm going to take my 7-year-old son down, and we're going to head down to Springfield, Massachusetts, where they're holding it, and hang out with some pretty passionate deer hunters. So if you're in the Springfield area later on this afternoon, and you haven't, if you have a ticket, shoot me an email, jay@bigbuckregistry.com. Let me know that you're going to be there so we can connect. Dusty, do you have any Chubby Tines tips of the week this week?
Yeah, I do. I really do.
What you got for us?
It's 'tis the season. Fa la 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 la. It's tree trim time.
Okay.
Everybody's starting to get anxious to get out in the woods. And man, I'm guilty, and I know you are too, Jay. Yeah, the ticks are there and the weeds are high, but my goodness is getting out there, making some time pass by. So I'm going out and visit some tree stands. I'm going to try to get out tomorrow afternoon, and I'm going to trim some tree limbs that I know that all this rain and great weather we've had are making these trees grow. So it's I'm going to go out and do some trimming. I'm not going to over trim. I'm just going to do a little bit of trimming, get some limbs that I know they're in the way. There's going to be some honeysuckle that's grown up over the summer here. And I'm going to start trimming that out. And then, I'm going to let it keep growing, kind of fill back in, fill the voids where maybe I trimmed too much or didn't trim enough. And I'm going to go trim some trees over the weekend just to get stuff prepped up and let the deer adjust to the trimming. And then once season gets here, I'll be ready to go. Just trim a few more limbs and clean things up. And I don't have to worry about making that big, huge cut come hunting time.
Right.
I'll have it kind of pruned up right now. And then when it comes hunting time, I just got to trim a little bit. Shouldn't be no major changes. But if you need to go out and trim a lot, now's the time to do it so them deer readjust to the trim.
Good tip, man. Yep. This is the time right now. As the brush has grown up and all that stuff, because it has. Yeah, go kind of see what's going on, so you'll be ready for the season when it turns the corner here in about a month and a half.
Yeah, just it's one of the things where you get a visual on what's new in the area, and you're going to see some shrubbery that's taken over. Get your shooting lanes trimmed back and get them deer back. They're going to recognize you've been in there.
Right.
But now's the time, and it'll settle back out before season opens. And Kentucky's coming up here September. Wow.
Yeah, it's right around the corner.
Holy cow.
It will be here before we know it.
Yeah, so it's time to start putting what you've learned on the Big Buck Registry to, the proof's in the pudding. Start putting all the information that we share and try to pass along and go out and utilize it in the woods, right? Now's the time.
Absolutely. So next week, Dusty, we are speaking with Merrill Sport. and Merrill is the president of the Hunt Channel and former owner of the Pursuit Channel. And we get to kind of get an inside glimpse as to how that whole thing works between the not the Outdoor Podcast Channel, which we are part of, by the way, the Outdoor Channel, the Sportsman's Channel, the Pursuit Channel, and the Hunt Channel, and how they all survive together and how they're all connected. It's kind of a fascinating tale.
Yeah, it should be really interesting.
Yes. Speaking of the Sportsman's Channel, we just finished our first voiceover for a commercial for the Rack Packer.
Yeah, absolutely. What a great product. I think it's www.therackpacker.com.
Yes, sir. And how did it come about? Zach Doyle, one of the owners of the company, called us to do a voiceover. Said, hey, we like your voices, and we need to add it to a video that we're doing, and it's going to air how many times was it going to air?
70 times from now till September 21st.
Okay, Sportsman's Channel. If you happen to see that ad, if you wouldn't mind, shoot us an email, Jay or Dusty at bigbuckregistry.com. I just want to know how many people listening to the show also saw that commercial for the Rack Packer with our voiceovers on that show. Just give a little track of the marketing that's going on.
Yeah, let us know.
Yep.
We'd love to hear from you.
Love to hear from you. Dusty, how can we reach you when you're not here on the mic talking to me?
Facebook.com/Chubby Tines Outdoors. You can also check out Facebook.com/Chubby Gobbler. And also you can shoot me an email, Dusty at BigBuckRegistry.com. And if you want to join in on some personal life and some of my hunting experience, you can look me up on Instagram at Chasing Antler.
Beautiful. Excellent, man.
Jay, how can they reach out to you?
Well, first, I'd like to invite you to come check us out over at the Outdoor Podcast Channel. It's outdoorpodcastchannel.com. You can also find us on iTunes through that channel. You can always find us on iTunes at bigbuckregistry.com/iTunes. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/bigbuckregistry, Twitter as twitter.com/bigbuckregistry. Give us a call at 724-613-2825. Tell us how you like the show or don't like the show, or give us a review. Leave us a review on iTunes if you could, and simply by going to the search bar and typing in Big Buck Registry. And if you would like to sponsor the show, if you have a product that you would like to reach out to a whole bunch of diehard deer hunting fans, feel free to reach out. It's shoot me an email, Jay at bigbuckregistry.com. You can go to bigbuckregistry.com/sponsor. If you have a big deer that you shot over the last couple of years and you'd like to get it featured and put in front of about 160,000 diehard deer hunting fans on Facebook, we'll post it for you. Shoot us an email at or go to bigbuckregistry.com/mybuck. And I believe that is it.
Big buck everywhere. A big buck.
Big bucks. Well, man, I think that's a wrap.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to another episode with us.
Yes.
And, we look forward to sharing all of our experiences and talk hunting for a very long time with you guys. And we much appreciate that you tune in with us every week.
Absolutely. Can't thank you enough for tuning in. Hope you enjoy the show. And we'll be back next week with Merrill Sport. I'm Jay Scott.
And I'm Dusty Phillips.
This is the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast. See you next week.
Can't wait.